Coming to you live from a trench in the Invisibles War, it's this week's Apocalypse. I am your co-host and corporal of this little unit, Kevin Lenihan. With me, as always, is Sergeant John Ferris. John, any orders?
I'm out of a depth.
Yeah, it's not very easy to shoot the enemy.
No.
When you cannot see the enemy, is it?
No, it's hateful.
Yeah, also, they're not giving themselves away, except sometimes they're just sort of being inappropriate with people.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, the invisible armies have invaded, as we all know.
See, I feel cheated because I only joined up because when I was told I was going to tackle the invisible killer, I thought they were talking about carbon monoxide.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah.
I thought that too. I've seen the posters and I thought, right.
This is much worse.
I have a detector. I brought my carbon monoxide detector with me. And I haven't had the chance to use it once yet. Yeah. It's very, very annoying. But luckily in our crappy trench that they let us dig ourselves because they're so nice. They let us dig our own trench. Somebody made a sort of a veiled sort of reference to digging our own graves, but I think that was just, battlefield humor.
Mm-hmm.
But I sort of have gouged out a little alcove in the back here, big enough for a Sony Trinitron wide tube television. Yeah, I know.
I mean, you have to still... It may be war, but you still need your luxuries.
Yes, and my Laserdisc player, which I've hooked up to a car battery here. Mm-hmm. So that we can watch films while we're waiting to be murdered by invisible people. Mm-hmm. But as an educational tool, maybe I thought, as a sort of I thought maybe we might be able to help ourselves out if we watched some movies about invisible killers, of course, like what they said. So we have here from 2020. Ooh. The great year 2020, the last year that there was. 2020, we have The Invisible Man, directed by Leigh Whannel. Now, the logline for that. When Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune, she suspects his death was a hoax. Ooh. As the series of coincidences turn lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she is being hunted by someone nobody can see. Ooh. All right.
So a ghost?
Well, I mean, sometimes you can see ghosts.
Oh yeah, true.
Do you remember?
Yeah, they usually pop out, and then you get stinger music. It actually happens in real life.
Yeah, sometimes they make a point of being seen. Yeah. The bastards. All right. Then from the year 2000, we have Hollow Man, directed by the sometimes great Paul Verhoeven. Logline for that. A brilliant scientist's discovery renders him invisible, but transforms him into an omnipotent, dangerous megalomaniac. Ooh, very sinister. Played by Kevin Bacon, who's very good at playing people like that.
Being a creep comes naturally.
Weirdly, yeah. And then from 2014, the far-flung past, we have It Follows, directed by David Robert Mitchell. Logline for that, pretty goddamn short. A young woman is followed by an unknown supernatural force after a sexual encounter. The end.
There you go.
All right, well, so let's duck and cover in the hovel with some nice buttery popcorn, or if you want, I have butter toffee popcorn.
Ooh.
And caramel popcorn.
Yeah, well,
and I've got candy floss flavor as well.
Let's just have a bit of everything.
All right, let's just mix it all up.
If this is going to be your last, if this is possibly your last day on Earth, you might as well.
Yeah. Yep. Now careful, because there are rocks in here, so don't break your teeth. All right, let's sit down and watch these movies. All right. Well, I did feel someone tousling my hair. Tossling. That's the word. Touching. Someone touched my hair. Someone was intermittently touching my hair throughout there, John, and it did creep me out a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was invisible people or whether you were just being sneaky.
I actually do this to my wife sometimes when we're lying on the
Oh.
sofa together watching something. Usually horror movies, because I'm a bastard, and I like kind of when my arm is up round, I'll like kind of tussle her hair, and then she'll be like, ah!
That's
And I get
mean.
hit.
That's mean. I
It
don't
is
like
very
that.
mean. It is.
I don't like that. That's like when I got this stupid VR thing and I just made it a house rule of do not ever, 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 ever touch me at all when I'm wearing my silly VR hat.
See what you're
Because-
forgetting? I am a bastard, man. So
Yeah, well, too late for that, John.
Yeah.
But speaking of bastard men,
Ooh.
what
Oh,
did you
yes.
think? We're talking now about The Invisible Man from 2020, directed by Leigh Whannel, which is the when Cecilia's abusive ex-husband, takes his own life and leaves her his fortune. She suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turn lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she is being hunted by somebody no one can see. John, how was The Invisible Man?
I think the first half of this is amazing, and then the second half kind of it's okay.
Yeah, I
It's
think
fi-
I think it averages out to be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But that you definitely have like a stronger first half when it's kind of it's almost like, is this in her head or is it not? And is this just paranoia? And it seems to be like the subtext is a lot clearer, and I don't know, it's just done very well. Even the shots are even the way it's shot is better, and then it becomes like this kind of ridiculous, almost like a superhero thing, because the Invisible Man in this one, spoilers, I suppose, slight spoiler in this, or no, maybe it's a big one, but he seems to have super strength at a few points. Like it doesn't seem to match that I don't know, it just doesn't seem like a normal, like there's some things that he does that doesn't seem like a normal man would be able to do, at least without making a sound.
That is in fact going to be an issue going forward here with another film that we're going to talk about. Yes, I think they play around with the you can't see what's attacking you or whatever, and you kind of like, these people are throwing themselves around in a way that seems too much.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, there is a thing where, see, sometimes I'd seen this movie before, and this was my, I think, second or third time seeing it, actually. And there's an interesting thing that I did. I don't know if it's intended in the film, but there is a sort of a thing I was playing with in my head of like, what if it is all in her head, and this is all delusion, and she's just making this up? No, it's a bit hard to do towards the latter end of the movie. But it's fun to do that. I think, the first half is like, it's a proper suspenseful thriller, and it's more of a horror movie at the beginning.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of stuff. It's almost like it's like the opposite of The Happening, in that whenever the camera would pan in The Happening over to nothing, it was fucking hilarious because it was so stupid. In this film, when it pans over to apparently nothing, it's a little bit nerve shredding.
Yeah.
And it's the way the camera holds, and sometimes the way the camera moves, where you start to feel convinced. You're like, wait, am I following someone who's following her? Yeah. Or is the camera following her? Or is the camera following someone who's following her? And it's creepy. And a lot of the things that happen can be written off as, that was just the wind.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, of course that fell. Or I don't see anything. And sometimes, like, if you're really paranoid, you can sometimes trick yourself into thinking you see things move when you don't. And I think it's successful on that. Successful on that count. It's when, even though, like, technically it is a remake of The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
the Universal horror movie from 1933, and also an adaptation of. I mean, H.G. Wells is credited.
Yeah.
For the original novel.
Well, I think there's I think there's a through line with this and Hollow Man. Like, I don't know, not to kind of jump the gun, but Hollow Man kind of introduces a lot of the the voyeuristic kind of elements of being invisible. And like, of course, people would use this power to do like weird things, especially if they're already creepy.
Yeah.
But and fucked up, like the what do you call her husband in this, or boyfriend, or whoever he is?
He is her ex-boyfriend. Yes, his name's Adrian.
Adrian. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the Hollow Man kind of introduced. There was maybe something else introduced this before Hollow Man. But they seem to play on that voyeuristic element of it a lot more, which I think is a good thing, because play to your strengths. If you have a kind of horror icon who is invisible, they're going to do nasty fucking weird shit like this, as opposed to like just having them murder people. They still do that, but it's kind of boring if you just have them just run about and going, oh, I can murder people now.
Yeah, like the way the Invisible Man goes about things in this is actually really horrible.
Yeah.
And manipulative and terrible.
Psychological torture.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not. Obviously, we were saying like the subtext is quite clear in the beginning. She is in an abusive relationship. And
they don't need to spell it out for you. They can show it to you just with the literal opening scene.
Yes.
You understand perfectly what's going on after like a minute.
Yeah.
You know exactly what's happening, and you know pretty much everything about this guy that you need to know before that scene is even half over.
Yeah.
And it is one of the tensest things. It's one of the tensest opening scenes, I think, in cinema.
Yeah.
I really think the beginning of this film is marvelous. It's remarkably good.
Yeah.
How tense and fretful and just oppressive that whole beginning, if you want to call it the escape scene at the beginning is. It's absolutely nail biting and claustrophobic in such it's a big space, a big house, but you get a real sense of claustrophobia in it as well, and it's very, 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 very good.
Yeah.
And I think it does continue to be good. As you say, there's a sort of I guess it's, once it makes the leap into straight up sci-fi, it becomes less of a horror movie.
Definitely.
But I still kind of like how it plays out. But the first like hour of it.
It feels like a different movie at that point. Once it's revealed that yes, it's not all in her head, or well, as you were saying, like you could still analyze it like that, but if you're taken for like what you're seeing as real, then it's basically revealed. No, she's right, and then after that point, it's crazy. Like the bit where the paint's thrown on the suit. When you see like how many wee moving parts are in this suit, how he manages to clean that off in like 5 minutes is ridiculous. You're going, I know that's like a minor nitpick kind of thing, but at that point you're just kind of like, okay, I need to kind of switch tracks in my brain here to kind of go right. Not now it's a silly fun movie, but it still maintains that kind of serious tone, and I think there's a bit of a disparity there, which I don't know. I kind of wish it went a different direction, but it's still fun. It's not like it's a broken mess or anything in the latter half. There is still parts of it, like also like logical things that kind of irk me. Like he follows her to that like the mental institute that she gets locked up in. So his plan is just to like stand in that room. Yeah,
it's silly that he is like in the locked places that she is in, theoretically, sometimes. And like you're like, how long? Well, he must have been there for ages, and you know, there is a sort of like, is he just pissing in the suit?
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, I think outside with the willing suspension of disbelief, I can get past that, and I think that it being a pretty much like one woman show a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I think Elizabeth Moss does a great job.
Yeah,
in this, I think she's great in this film, especially like from the moment she opens her eyes at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing a fucking fantastic job. Again, I can't say enough about how great I think the opening of the film is.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's just her walking around the house.
Trying to be quiet.
Trying to be quiet, and it's so tense. She does it so well. And just, yeah, and then like later on when her whole life is falling apart, she's a great performance.
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant, and she has to carry the movie, and she does, I think, very well.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other, actors and stuff in it, but it's so focused on her all the time. I don't know if there's a single scene that she's not in.
Yeah, right enough.
I think the entire movie, there's bits where it cuts away, maybe to the cop guy getting a phone call about something, but outside of that, I think the film pretty much just is locked with her the entire time.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. It gives it a real focus.
Can't believe she never thought about getting like some infrared goggles or something. Or
we'll get to that. We'll get to the problem with people and their infrared goggles in a minute when we talk about Hollow Man. But for now, I will say that I think the tone of this movie's great. I love how it's shot. I like how dark it is.
Yeah.
It's not too dark. It's not like squinting to see dark. I think it's really well lit.
Yeah. No, it's almost like there's like a bluish kind of color palette on it. At least at the beginning that I remember.
It's like greenish blue for almost the whole film.
But it gives this like cold feel to the whole movie, which is great because that whole relationship is just, there's no love in it. It's so cold, and like it's almost like, what I think at one point she even starts going like, why the fuck are you so, I think when she's locked in the metal institute, why are you fucking obsessed with me? Like,
she's sitting in a room ostensibly screaming at the wall and talking to herself, which again is brilliant because you're just like, if you didn't believe her, you just feel like, you're fucking crazy. Look at what you're doing right now. She's like, why? Like, you could have any woman you want, just why me? Why are you doing this to me?
And I think the main strength is that as you mentioned earlier, that the way the camera can linger on a corner and there's nothing there, and that's all it needs, and you do have that like, I don't like this.
It gives you the shiver. You get a wee shiver.
Yeah.
Because you're like, is he just, like, she's staring at this empty fucking doorway. The camera will pan over and just look, and you'll be like, is he standing there? I bet he fucking is. Yeah, I'll bet he. And then it'll pan away.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, where the fuck is he now?
Like
he could be fucking anywhere.
So like the cinematography in general, like especially in that early part, is very good for that, because the camera, much like one of these other movies, and you can guess which one, Kevin. The camera is almost like another character in it. It's like it's so essential to the storytelling.
Yeah,
that you can probably guess.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. So I think you're right in that. Yeah, the first half is a really good, effective horror movie, and the second half is a pretty good sci-fi thriller.
Yeah.
But there is definitely a sort of a, I liked it better when it was more mysterious.
Yeah.
Which another one of these films I think does very well with maintaining the mystery. But I would say
Hollow Man, of course.
Yes. I would say that as far as invisible murder people movies go, this is still a very, 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 very good one.
Yeah. I would say it's one of the better ones.
Yeah, it's one of the better ones. I hesitate to say one of the best because that implies like, the best, and that invites argument. But it's very, very good, and I think I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, John. Let me count the ways. Let me count the ways in which Hollow Man failed and the ways in which it was somewhat successful.
Yep.
I'm just going to read the log line here. A brilliant scientist's discovery renders him invisible, but transforms him into an omnipotent, dangerous megalomaniac. Now, I would take issue with the idea that it transforms him.
Yeah.
Because I think the way this movie begins and carries on, that Kevin Bacon's character, Sebastian Kane, is already that. And I mean, omnipotent, no. He certainly thinks he is. He's already the asshole that he goes on to be.
Yeah.
He is a creep. He is a misogynist. He is a sexual assaulter, I would say, already.
Yeah, he's the kind of like crazy scientist who goes, "They all called me crazy."
Yeah, like, and they were right.
I'll show them.
I'll show them all with my death ray. Yeah, exactly. That's who he is.
Like from as you say, from the very beginning, he's arrogant. He's kind of already creepy. He's,
which is fun.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to go out on a limb here and say that this movie is brilliant.
No.
I'm not going to say it's good. I'm going to say that sometimes it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a bit too much.
Yeah.
On that side, it revels in its misogyny sometimes, or it's reveling in his rapiness, for want of a better word, and I wish I had come up with a better word, but I've said it now. But it revels a bit too much in that. But John, what do you think of Hollow Man?
I mean, just kind of what you said there. Like it can be fun at times, but then almost after you've kind of like finished chuckling at something ridiculous, he's in Rhonda Mitra's room. Yeah, trying to like getting ready to rape her, and then ultimately raping her, and you're just like,
but then I feel like
tone seems like not conducive for what they're trying to show.
It's extremely grim, and then I feel like they try to water that down after the fact.
Yeah,
when he is talking to one of the science nerds. And he tries to imply that he didn't, and he just put a good scare into her.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's them trying to walk it back or not.
I read that as him just lying. Like, he was just kind of...
Yeah, it seems more likely.
Because I don't think many rapists go around admitting that they raped.
Yeah, because there's never any follow-up on that.
Yeah.
Or consequence from that, or anything.
I thought they would have found out because... this woman was making claims that a ghost raped her or something.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, oh, wait, that sounds like it might be our creepy boss. Because he was out running about being invisible.
Indeed.
But yeah, lot of creepiness. But it's kind of what we had mentioned earlier, where if that's what you needed to kind of pave the way for the Invisible Man 2020, it kind of, I think this is the direction to bring an Invisible Man, creepy horror guy, because, that's the fucking scariest thing about him.
That's what makes him scary, is that if it was a super, super, super duper nice guy that you trusted implicitly and completely, who suddenly became invisible, you'd be like, all right, where are you? And he'd be like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm still in the bed where you left
with
me.
that, even if it was the
Can you
nicest...
make me visible yet, please? No, okay. Can I have a ping pong table or a pinball machine or something? Okay, thank you. That's not an exciting film, I guess.
Yeah. But even with someone who could be trusted and stuff, there's still that... He could be anywhere, and that's, I don't know. It's an invasion of everyone's privacy. There is an element of that.
You'd still feel uncomfortable that they could be there.
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah, it's creepy as fuck.
And
the concept.
Yeah, and there is I'm sure there's movies probably in the 80s or 90s where a teenager or TV series where a teenager's invisible for an episode or whatever, and the first thing he does is go into the women's changing room, and you're like, you're a fucking creep. Dude, this is exactly where this is. What they've basically done with Hollow Man is just bring that further into this is what you are, you creepy little fucker. But yeah, apart from that, it has these hilarious moments, when he goes on his murdering sprees and stuff, and you can kind of see the outline of him in the rain and the sprinkler system and stuff is kind of hilarious.
I mean, they are taking that is something that is addressed. Now, this is technically not based on the H.G. Wells novel and isn't a remake of The Invisible Man.
Yes,
technically.
Yes, it is.
It's a complete rip-off, yes. It's just not officially.
Yeah.
But in the original book and in actually the original film, that is something that H.G. Wells describes.
Yeah.
He describes, whenever the Invisible Man is, he's come back to his scientist, I use the word buddy, but he's not really his buddy, he's really just intimidating him into helping him. He explains to him, he's, making him his, guy that's going to help him because he's visible, and I need you to do things for me. And he explains then, if I'm out in the rain, you'll see the raindrops lying on my skin, and if I'm in a fog, I will appear as a man-shaped bubble.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So H.G. Wells considered all that stuff way back when. As a man with a fucking amazing imagination.
Yeah.
So they're taking a lot of that stuff and then showing it in this film, because they do the original one has the 1933 James Whale movie has some very, very cool effects, but they don't do that. Mm-hmm. Because they can't.
Oh, they couldn't have.
They talk about it. There's a part where they've all got these wee ink guns, and they're like, we'll spray him with this, and then we'll be able to see where the ink hits him. Yeah. But that never works out in the movie. They never get to do that.
Yeah.
There's some extremely cool stuff with footprints appearing in the snow and stuff, which I think still looks phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, they're trying to do that. They're looking at this original thing that he's describing. They're like, well, how do we do that? And then turns out how we do that is a lot of fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers feature heavily in the revealment of the Invisible Man. And also, there's the whole, because nowadays we have science and we have the movie Predator. So we know that, heat thermal vision, that's a thing. Now, there is an issue in this movie with not with the thermal vision itself, but the way in which they use it, which is to say,
they don't
really. They have these magic goggles that will let them see him, and they only use them for a few seconds at a time. Sometimes, and other times they'll be running around holding the goggles in their hands.
It's infuriating.
And it is unbelievable that it's even that nobody on set was like, hey, why would my character be doing this?
Yeah.
They're built for wearing.
Yep.
And I mean, Josh Brolin's running around with it in his hand, and every now and then he's putting it up to his eyes and then flipping down the thing and then turning it on and having a wee look around and then turning it off and taking it off and holding them down by his side again. Is the battery life in them terrible or something? Do you think that's it?
Yeah, and even just on that, you've got, Kevin Bacon's character is very intelligent and blah blah blah. Of course, he's the main scientist. And they could have come up with just him sabotaging them. That's it. To know that that's all they would have needed to do to kind of fix that problem. It's like, oh no, we don't have them anymore. There we go. That explains why we don't have this piece of equipment that makes dealing with them, or should make it very easy. But apparently, he also gets superhuman strength.
Yes,
when he turns invisible. It seems once you turn invisible, you become superhuman.
That is worth noting. He is able to take a weird crowbar thing and shove it all the way through somebody and lift them up with it. He is able to throw Josh Brolin like friggin' 8 or 9 feet in the air across a room, and he's picking people up and throwing them all over the place, and it's just Kevin Bacon, it's just Kevin Bacon, and you can't see him. He didn't turn into Lou Ferrigno. He's just a dude.
Yeah. Also, I think we have to mention, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but they're amazing science stuff that they do in the computer. I fucking love it. It's proper Hollywood science where
when they just say, "Oh no, I need to do this. Oh, it didn't work. 98%. Oh no, it got to 98."
It's like a wee GIF on the screen, and it's like, if I add this bubble, oh my god, this is what happens.
It is the things they say to each other to pretend fucking science. Is just amazing, especially early on. They're just saying the names of makey-uppy chemicals and using the word photons a lot.
Yeah.
And it means nothing, but it's wonderful because I am all in on this crappy Hollywood science here because it's so fucking funny. But yeah, I mean, in the great pantheon of Paul Verhoeven's work, it's somewhere in the middle, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because he's done some great stuff and he's done some trash.
Yeah.
I mean, he did RoboCop, which is a satirical
fucking brilliant
masterpiece.
It's one of those ones that's always people who don't like it, I always kind of go, really? Yeah, what's wrong with you? Same with Starship Troopers. Is there's more going on in that movie. That's not that's not just a straightforward action movie. And he really seems to excel with that kind of material that kind of can be looked at as schlocky kind of action rubbish, but also has a deeper thing.
Yeah, when he gets a sci-fi concept, and then he's like, right, well, this is gonna be about fascism.
Yeah. Or
this is going to be about the negative effect of corporations on society, which is and the militarization of police, which is what RoboCop is all about.
Yeah.
Or Starship Troopers, which is all about the rise of fascism.
Yeah.
And Starship Troopers is Nazi Germany. It is all the stuff on TV. It's all based on Nazi propaganda movies, and everybody's attitude is very much this is the ideal of this is the brainwashed people of Nazi Germany in the 1930s.
Yeah,
that is Starship Troopers. That's what that film is all about, and it seems to go over. I think it went over a lot of people's heads, and it even went over a lot of people's heads. Every video game that has ever been made of Starship Troopers, it's gone over the heads of the people who made those, And now, it did not go over the heads, I think, of the people who made the sequels, because there's a few sequels to Starship Troopers. One of them's garbage, but fun, and another one is just a surrealistic masterwork.
Right.
I can't remember. I think it's the third one, but it's still in that vein of they're doing the Nazi propaganda thing again, but they have this weird thing where there's this general in the army who's super handsome, and he's a famous singer. He's the singing general. And it's really surrealistic and funny, but then
I haven't seen it. I might have to.
It's actually remarkably good. I think I think it's pretty cheap, and the special effects aren't great in it, but the content there is very, very good.
Yeah.
So that's something that Paul Verhoeven is responsible for. That's great.
What-
Total Recall, I think, is brilliant.
Yeah,
Again,
Total
corporations
Recall's
ruining people's lives and running people's lives. Brilliant. Basic Instinct, fucking trash.
Yeah.
Just out and out. Basic Instinct is a fucking terrible film.
Yeah.
Showgirls is a great comedy. It's funny.
Whether intentional,
Yeah,
intentional.
it's
or not.
hard to tell with Showgirls whether it was supposed to be funny or not. But it is funny. And ever since then, he has a new film that I'm very interested to see called Benedetta.
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen the trailer for that.
I saw a trailer for that when I went to see The Northman. There was a trailer for it before that, and I thought, ooh, what's this? And then Paul Verhoeven's name came up at the end, and I thought, really? Awesome? So yeah, I mean, he can be brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that brilliant here. I think he's still doing a pretty... I mean, I don't think it's poorly made.
No, it's all right. Like,
Yeah.
there's some decent shots as well. Like, I think all these movies try to utilize the camera in a voyeuristic way. You know,
Yeah,
it has it constantly kind of moving and acting like a character. I'd say this is the weakest out of the three for doing it, but it still has its moments.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the special effects in this one?
I think they're okay.
So do I.
Sometimes they're ropey. Whenever you're getting the first sort of internals of like the goopy stuff moving around inside, it's a bit dodgy. But there were a few moments where I was generally like, oh, like when his skin and stuff was invisible and you could sort of see most of his skeleton and his skull, but you could still see his eyes. It was really creepy.
Yeah.
And then later, there's a point where he gets horribly burnt that looks pretty good and is actually kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
Again,
adding to the superhuman nature of him, that he's still running about burnt to crisp.
Yeah, the fire that he somehow survives, you should not be able to survive. I think there is a certain sort of willing suspension of disbelief because you then don't see him again after he becomes re-invisible after that, sort of, again. So you can kind of go with it, but you are still kind of thinking in your head, I mean, he was literally on fire. Like, he should be dying of shock, at least. He should be in shock right now, but he's not. And the whole sort of climactic sort of finale bit is ridiculous. I'm not necessarily going to go, like, say what it is specifically.
Like, it's funny that this movie has...
the fire likes to wait for them. The fire tends to wait for people to fall
everyone
into
knows fire is very considerate.
It is indeed. Yeah.
But yeah, it's strange the way, like, not to the same degree, but like The Invisible Man 2020 and Hollow Man 2000 have kind of similar problems in the sense that, like, the latter half has a different tone, and in Hollow Man it's already kind of stupid and batshit from the beginning. So the end is like, what the fuck is going on?
You might say that Hollow Man has a bit of a more consistent tone, maybe.
Yeah,
because
weirdly.
it's stupid all the way through.
And I have to say, on a personal note, I couldn't identify with any of these characters because they're animal testing and they're being fucking absolute wankers about it as well.
Yeah, they're very pleasant, except for the vet, but he's still helping them really.
At one point she's like, "Oh, you shouldn't be like horrible to these animals." Like, you're fucking letting them inject them with random unknown chemicals, you fucking bitch. You have no morals.
She is actively helping them to do these things. She's full of crap.
So,
but
I think I've mentioned before that I can take a lot of things in cinema, but like animal cruelty is always like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not having it. But all these fuckers, I was like, I don't care if he's all fucking died. Go ahead.
I have that sometimes in video games. I have that where sometimes I'll be playing a game and merrily shooting all these people, and then I'll be like, oh no, they're gonna make me kill this dog.
Yeah, I don't.
And then I'm like, I'm not okay with this.
Yeah,
you know, that's not fun.
I was like, oh no, I need to get 5 of these wolf pelts. I don't really want to, because every time I kill a wolf, it makes
it goes
noise. It's like,
yeah, and that's bad. Or sometimes they'll do it in a dramatic scene to be like, oh, this dog was attacking me, and I had to. And it's like, don't do that. It's not necessary. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes. Hollow Man is entertaining. I'll say that for it.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon's very well cast. He gets cast as Creeps a fair amount, and he is very good at it.
He is. I'm not going to say he is a creep, but he's very good at playing them. No, he seems.
I don't think he's a creep. He seems all right. He
seems pretty. He seems pretty cool. He seems to know kind of what the perception of him is, and he plays on it a good bit, which I can respect, because it's like, fucking, you make millions of people's perception of you. Fuck them.
Yeah, and he's a great dancer, so he's got that going for him too. So
it's a crime to make that man invisible.
Indeed, we want to see him move. Is the graceful like a swan? Are swans graceful?
Possibly. I don't know. There's a ballet about swans, isn't there?
There's a ballet about a swan, so I guess that must mean that swans are graceful.
Yeah.
I don't know, John. But anyway, I still weirdly, despite all our excuses, I still wouldn't want Kevin Bacon sneaking up on me. So Hollow Man gets 0 stars.
Yeah.
Nah, it's fairly effective. The effects in it for 2000 aren't bad and are used. They're used well.
I think they're pretty damn good for 2000.
Yeah, they're used well. They're used somewhat sparingly.
Yeah.
They don't do a lot of that stuff, and they can, when they're used, they're often subtle.
Yeah.
And they look all right. Like I think they nailed water moving on something that can't be seen around them.
Yeah, which I would say is very difficult. Water's notorious in effects to be very difficult to do.
Yeah, it looks good in this when it's like running off, and you go, "Oh, that is Kevin Bacon." Yeah, I can kind of see his face there. Cool. Yeah, or when he's running around in smoke, or lots of different fire extinguisher moments.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So yeah, I think all in all, this movie's pretty successful.
Yeah.
At what it does. I'll give it that. Pretty successful. John, do you hear that?
No.
Do you hear the Moogs? The slow rising sound of a Moog keyboard in the distance somewhere.
No,
It's getting. It feels like it's getting closer and closer. Oh, sorry, shit. No, sorry. I have like a Rick Wakeman thing that I set as my alarm every morning to remind me to get up, but like subtly, so it's like slow rise.
See, I need something shocking that like makes me pop out of bed.
Oh my gosh!
I need to be frightened into reality.
Well, John, if you want to be frightened into reality, there's nothing like a good horror movie.
Yeah.
Hey, especially one with an outlandish concept.
Yep.
Yeah, such as the logline for It Follows. A young woman is followed by an unknown supernatural force after a sexual encounter.
That's all you need to know.
So there we go. It Follows from 2014, directed by David Robert Mitchell. Now, John, how do you feel about It Follows?
I think this is a really good horror movie. I really, really really love how, more so than the previous movies we talked about, how the camera is so essential to giving you this feel, because the music in this is very subtle and very very minimalist. It also helps to contribute to the whole tone and feel, but the camera, at times you feel, am I it? Am I the thing that's following her? And then other times it's just like you're a creepy, you're in a similar vein to it, even if it's been shown to be elsewhere. You're kind of, again, I just keep going back to that word of voyeuristic. You're just watching this, but you're very aware that you're watching it, if that makes sense. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think this film is a tonal triumph. Yeah. I think it really captures. It's set in a place, again, we've talked about this in other movies, but it's set in a place that is very reminiscent
of John Carpenter's Halloween.
Yes.
It's set in exactly that kind of suburban America. It is cribbing from that a little bit, especially in that with the camera in Halloween does a lot of the same things. There's a lot of like, this is the perspective of the killer in Halloween, or it's hovering, like there's a lot of sort of wide shots of outside places where you're like, is he there?
Yeah.
In Halloween?
Yeah, like I think this is, if not fully, the mostly like shot with a wide lens. So like there's this constant like it almost gives you agoraphobia because
you're looking around the edges for something. Like, is there something walking? You're looking for someone walking that way.
Exactly, and I think this is like almost like a good successor of Halloween. There is a lot of kind of even the music that is in it is very John Carpenter-esque. It's very Halloween and things like that. Yeah. There's a very 80s feel to this, even though I kind of looked it up to see when it was set because it's weird.
Yeah, and there's one point conflicting stuff.
Yeah, a lot of conflicting stuff. The cars are from different time periods.
Yeah,
her sister has like an ebook type thing.
I think it's their friend, isn't it? It's like her sister's friend. It's her sister's friend who has like it's a clamshell e-reader.
Yeah. And it's like
she's reading books on all the time.
But all the TVs are
they're all tube TVs and they're black and white movies. They're only ever watching black and white movies.
Yeah,
in it. Yeah,
and I actually wanted to know like when is this meant to be set? But the whole concept originated from the director. The director had a recurring nightmare that like someone was constantly following and he couldn't get away. And quite a common nightmare, but this is where it stemmed from, and he wanted that kind of dreamlike feel, and that's why he has all these like disparities with time. Like there's parts of it that feel 60s, there's parts that feel 80s, and then modern day and things like that. But it's meant to feel like that, like a dream, and like you can't really place when it's happening. And I think it's very successful, and it helps create this awkward like feel and tone to it. And one of the criticisms I thought I had about it is then almost explained by this idea that it's meant to feel like a weird dream or a weird nightmare. Is that I felt some of the conversations, especially early on, were very stilted and very strange, and served no real purpose. But if that's the tone he was going for as well, it's kind of like, okay, I can kind of see where that's coming from. But like the cinematography in this is I think the hero of it. It
is fantastic. It's where a lot of the tension comes from.
Yeah. Again, we'd mentioned in The Invisible Man the camera lingering or like moving to something, then there's nothing there, and like this it does the very, very similar things.
Yeah, it does some wonderful things where there's like the background's very out of focus.
Yeah.
And you'll see someone in the foreground, and in the background you'll see movement, and you'll be squinting going, is that someone walking towards her?
Yeah.
And you're not sure. And then you are sure. And then maybe later you're like, is that it? Is that it? Is that it? Yeah, and that's also one of the things I love about this movie, that, again, like, The Invisible Man falls into the trap of too much explanation.
Yeah.
With the 2020 Invisible Man. It's also something that while I was watching it, I was thinking of another film that started out much like the 2020 Invisible Man, that I thought started out incredibly well and has a sort of a supernatural killer monster in it.
Yeah.
That is not visible. There's a film called Lights Out.
Okay, I don't think I've seen
that I thought was great right up until they decide to over-explain what the creature is.
Yeah.
Before that, it's brilliant. It's the concept of that movie is there's this thing that can only be seen in the dark.
Oh, okay.
And it leads to some really great moments of somebody like, turning a light out and be like, what? And then turning the light back on and there being nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
And then turning the light off again and something being closer to them, and then turning the light back on and being like, what the fuck? And like, it's, again, cinematography in that is brilliant, but it gets ruined by lore later on in the film, whereas this film never falls into that trap.
Yeah.
It has a, now, if I have one criticism of it, I think it's a bit crass how the creature is passed on, but then it is also kind of a metaphor for STDs.
Yeah.
As well, which is kind of okay, but I thought the first time I saw this film, that was the only problem I had with it.
Yeah.
Was I was like, that's a bit, but I think the behavior of the creature, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love everything about the actual monster, if you want to call it that, in it.
Yeah.
I love how it's shot. Again, what you're saying, I love the timelessness of it. You don't know when it's set. It feels like the 80s sometimes. It feels like the 70s, but then you see things and you're like, this has to be a more modern time. But it doesn't matter, because it's all about the characters and how they're dealing with this thing and almost the hopelessness of it all.
Yeah, that's a very good word to like sum up the feeling of it. It's just there is a hopelessness to everything, to like the situation, to just how do you beat this thing?
What do you do? Do
or
you like
passing it on to someone else?
Yeah. Do you go and jump on a plane and go to the other side of the world, and then so long later get a plane back around the other way, and then just do that for your whole life? And what if you get to the airport and your flight's delayed, and what if this, what if that? You can never be sort of entirely clear.
Yeah.
It's always walking towards you no matter where you are.
Yeah, you would have to like judge its pace and then like drive to an airport that you're gonna like, because you're gonna have to get there 2 hours ahead of time anyway.
You have to book a flight and drive to somewhere that's far enough from where it is that you have time to get through security and account for any potential delays or United or EasyJet fucking up and screwing you over. All that stuff.
You're screwed.
It's hopeless. It is hopeless. Like, it's just, you really get that feeling from everybody in it. The film, it's a very quiet film.
Oh yeah, very, very quite slow paced as well. Like, this isn't the kind of exciting kind of like the Invisible Man. Like the last part of it's all like, oh, action, and a lot of Hollow Man's like that. This the pace never kind of. I don't want to say never picks up. That sounds kind of bad, but
it does have a finale-ish,
and even that's kind of ambiguous. There's a lot of ambiguity around this movie, and I'd like that. I think it feeds into the whole thing where I like that they don't explain what it is. They don't learn too much about it. I think it's done very well, and the performances are pretty good as well. Again, very much like The Invisible Man, it's kind of relying on the main character to hold a lot of it together, and I think she does very well. Was it
Micah Monroe?
Yeah,
I think plays the main character, Jay, and she is very, very good at seeming very, very upset.
Yes,
all the time. There's just some there's just so many just little moments in this movie that are just really upsetting, and it's just like, what? Oh my god, what are you gonna do now?
I found as well that one of the things that kind of, in a way, was upsetting for me was like the character Paul. I thought they would maybe address this, so maybe the intention is to leave it hanging and make it have that like creepy angle to it, but he presents himself as like, oh, I'll sleep with you, so like, it's not at least not following you. There's something very opportunistic about
Yep.
his whole thing that
I believe that's called white knighting.
Yeah,
John.
yeah.
That's what it feels like that's what he's
He
doing.
just wants to have sex with it, and you know this from the very first time you meet him. He's like lingering on her. So this is like perfect opportunity. It's a win-win, kind of thing. But it's weird that I find it strange it's never addressed. But it's kind of bizarre.
I think they're addressing it by that. I mean, I feel like that's intentional.
Yeah.
I feel like they're not. It's like, I mean, you could interpret it otherwise, but to me, it feels pretty solidly like that's what's happening. I think. I think this film is like from when I first saw it. I remember saw this in the cinema, and was really taken aback by how tonally consistent and creepy it was, and the music I really love the sound, and I think the sound design in this movie is fantastic. I love a movie that has a mystery that doesn't feel the need to explain its mystery to death.
Yeah.
So many films get so hung up on like, but why is this happening? Like, and it's something that sometimes, now Stephen King did say once that, you know, the scariest thing is the unknown and not to over-explain things. But the problem is that he is a guy who actually does sometimes engage in over-explaining things as well.
Definitely.
He is guilty of that himself.
Yeah.
But I feel like this film really deftly avoids that, and you don't feel like you missed out on anything because they didn't explain it.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to work out how to make it stop, but they're never really trying to figure out why it started.
Yeah.
They mention it. It gets mentioned offhand once or twice, but all the investigating in this film is the main investigating, like, is in a film like this, you got to have we need to find out more. But the thing they're finding out more about is the guy that gave it to her.
Yeah.
That's the thing for a lot of the time. They're trying to figure out who he is and where he is and go back to him and ask him about it. And then he doesn't really fucking know anything really either. You know, that's the great thing. They get to him and they're all sitting around in this little huddle, and you think it seems like it's going to be right. This is it. Here's the lore drop. And then he says, "No, basically everything I told you earlier is all I know.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be anywhere near me, and this is bad, and I'm sorry. But you should just do what I did," and away you go. And then they're just stabbing in the dark, trying to figure out what to do about it, when it's just, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I love the way it ends. I don't want to specifically say, but I love the very end of this film.
Yeah, we'll get to it now. That I actually heard that there was a plan to make a sequel. I think it was canned then, thankfully, in which they would explore the origins, and it made me just kind of go,
thanks.
That is never a good idea. That always
that actually retroactively would make this film worse.
Yeah. It's like I like the fact that it's like, where did it be? Like, you know, all these questions are left in the air, and you shouldn't know, because especially if they were going to use any of the same characters, it would be ridiculous, because unless it's like the guy who, even the guy who gives our main character this weird supernatural STD, like, he's a dead end, so they can't go any further. You know, it's just some girl he had a one night stand with at a bar. Yeah,
and he there's no way you're finding out who the fuck she is.
Yeah,
you know, that ship has long since sailed.
Exactly. So, you know, how much of that do you go down? And there's even that bit where, I think it's implied that she has sex with like these guys on a boat.
Yeah.
Or at least one of them, to pass it on, and one of them must die fairly quickly because that doesn't seem to work. Or
I think it's just I think that's just a last ditch thing to give her a wee bit more time to get back home.
Yeah,
which is horrible,
Yeah.
but desperation.
But
What
I
are you
kind
gonna
of
do?
I almost like that. There's that the moral quandary as well with this. Where she knows what she's doing if she has sex with one of these men.
Yeah,
she knows she's passing this death sentence on them.
yeah,
But I like that. It kind of reminded me of in Drag Me to Hell. Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell. Like
yeah.
there's that whole element of she
To give it to someone else.
Yeah.
That is her plan. Is give this thing that she gave you with the curse on it. If you gift it to someone
the
else,
solution isn't really a solution. It's just it's a very selfish solution.
Yeah,
But it follows. It's even worse. It's just like it is a temporary selfish solution.
Yeah.
You're literally like going.
it doesn't actually solve the problem.
Yeah, it's like I don't have time to deal with this. You do.
Here, you deal with this for a while, and then later I'll muddle someone else's life with it, I guess. Yeah, so I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really well shot. I think it is tense. It is genuinely frightening.
Mm-hmm.
The creature itself is just fundamentally terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you do get some sort of looks like, here's what it does to people. And it's horrible.
Yeah.
How some of the people end up is gruesome.
Plus, there's also that because anyone who maybe hasn't seen this will be going, I thought this was meant to be invisible attackers,
Yeah.
And the thing with this is only she can see the killer.
Yeah,
Everyone
nobody
else
else can see it. Yeah.
So it lends itself to no one's believing her. There's a brilliant scene on the beach where you can see from very early on, you can see it coming, and you're like, oh shit! But she's facing the wrong way, and her friends are just kind of looking at her, looking at her very concerned and going, "Are you okay?" and kind of stuff. No one's really saying anything.
They don't know it's coming up behind her
and
because they can't see it, and it's horrible. And even at that moment, there's a real the audience. You're not even sure if that's it.
Yeah.
Until you see someone else, and you're like, "Oh no, everybody's in front of her."
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
It's very, very well done.
It's giving me the shivers now thinking about it. Oh, it's so good. Oh, yeah. So I think this film is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad they didn't do a sequel.
Yeah, I hope they never do.
This director is doing a remake of Escape from New York, which I'm not sure about. But we'll see how that shakes out. Or maybe I won't ever see how that shakes out. I don't know. Maybe I just won't watch that unless it gets really amazing reviews or something. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, okay. I don't know what you do with that, I suppose.
I don't know.
I suppose
either,
that could be the only reason they didn't approach me with it.
Yeah, that's literally the only reason they didn't ask you, John, is that you don't know what to do with a remake of Escape from New York.
They asked me, no, give it to David Robert Mitchell.
Yeah, he did that film about invisible monster sex disease, so that's basically the same thing. Yeah, fire on, David Robert, fire on. Well, I can feel them all around me. They're just sort of poking my shoulders and laughing right now, and just they're all just
Just as well, they're all terrible idiots.
Just as well, they're all apparently fools. Don't they know there's a war on, John? Don't these invisible cretins understand? Well, before they realise that, John, we need to get rid of them.
Yep.
We need to find a way that we can defeat them. However, before we do that, John, which of these did you think was the best movie?
Is this an obvious one? I think it's fairly obvious if you heard us talking. It's I think It Follows just it edges. I think The Invisible Man's good, but that latter half definitely kind of knocks it down a few pegs there. But
it has that sort of when it transitions from horror to sci-fi.
Yeah. The tonal shift. I don't want to say it doesn't work, but it's okay, but it just feels like they missed an opportunity or something. Whereas It Follows is just throughout. Like you had even mentioned there that tonally it just continues right to the end. Just perfectly perfect tone. Hollow Man's just ridiculous. Hollow Man's not.
Yeah. Hollow Man's ridiculous. We're not going to say it's the best film, obviously, but there is something about it that is kind of good.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But it is also weird and exploitative, and I'm not sure that it knows that its main character is as horrible as he appears to me to be.
Yeah, you get that sense that it's that like boys will be boys attitude kind of.
Yeah, up until he starts ramming things through people.
Yeah.
But I feel like before that, he's still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like from the very beginning, he's a piece of shit. Like, he's just a fucking reprehensible shitbag from the word go. Like, in the original Invisible Man, they had the explanation of there's sort of in his formula, one of the other scientists, when they're like, where did he go? And then not in a he's invisible, but he's literally left.
Yeah.
They find he's burned all his research, but the guy finds a list of chemicals, and there's like one chemical on it called monocaine. And he says that he read some book about an experiment, in a book that had an experiment in it, where they tested it on a dog or something, and that something that wasn't in the English translations was that it induced psychosis.
Oh, okay.
So in the original Invisible Man, his formula is actually making him crazy.
Well, they kind of briefly mention that in this, because the gorilla gets more aggressive and things like that. They do. It definitely is still in that as well, because they kind of almost try to like explain away his evil behavior by like going, oh, it's that as well. You know, he had elements of this that maybe elevated it, but
it's exacerbating his shittiness.
Yeah, but I don't buy that.
No, I don't think so either. The Invisible Man, again, spoilers for all these films, by the way. So in The Invisible Man, I mean, that guy is definitely a big bag of dicks from the beginning.
Yeah.
Unequivocally a manipulative, abusive, sociopathic piece of shit.
Yeah.
Overprivileged ratbag.
I did appreciate that at the very, very end when she has dinner with him, and he doesn't openly say that he was in the suit and he had orchestrated this whole thing, but I forget the word, because I actually watched this 2 weeks ago, but I forget the word that he says, but instantly the audience and she knows, oh, you're a bag of dicks. You were behind this whole thing, and then that's when she decides to stick the other suit on and get a bit of justice,
and do some justice, which is extremely satisfying. And I do kind of like the end of that movie. Yeah, I kind of like that whole scene. I think it recovers at that point quite well from the lack of tension in the sort of back third. I think the very end. Very end recovers that a little bit.
The wet fart that is the brother being revealed as the killer.
Yeah, it's like, all that stuff. You're like, whatever. But I think it really saves it with that final scene. Yeah. Which is incredibly satisfying, because I hated that guy so much. He was so awful, and there's just something about the smirk that she gives the cop on her way out. Yeah, when he's all like, I didn't know, and then she just goes. That
was another thing. Like the cop, James, you call him,
Big James,
was built like a tank.
He's a fucking monster.
I don't care how invisible you are, you're not beating that guy.
Yeah, he was getting thrown around and choked and all that shit by this guy who's a pretty fucking weedy guy, really. Yeah, because that is the brother at that point. As well, and
even no matter what one it is, I was just
it doesn't matter.
Neither of it, even if it was the two of you aren't taking that guy.
That guy's like fucking 16 stone of pure fucking muscle. Like, you're not taking him down. But I guess they kind of sort of do. But it's he's invisible, so you can't see the attacks coming, I guess.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, having a hand to hand with him is a bit reductive. Like, they could have, again, use the invisibility to to your advantage, like especially these intelligent
supposed genius level guys.
I was like, nah, I'll just punch him and stuff. Just stab, and then you would accept. Okay, yes, this guy James is built like a tank, but he just got stabbed, so therefore he's easier to handle. Like something like that, but it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but then we get to It Follows, and you're just like, this is like, this just works.
Yeah,
and it's horrible, and it's skin crawling, and that whole just every time you see, I mean, you're constantly looking over their shoulders, to see, you're just like, oh, there's somebody walking. Oh no. Yeah. Like, everybody's walking. People just walk everywhere.
Yeah, and
like, this person's walking at an angle that they're like, it looks like they're heading straight for them. Uh-oh.
Apparently they did have, I mean, it's quite obvious when you watch it, there was always people they had walking specific ways to always give that uneasy feel. But I even find, like, some of the interior shots where she's sleeping and you're going, oh, don't go to sleep. You can't sleep. You can't sleep. You're just allowing it time to catch up. Yeah. Even that was like, you don't get that release in it at all. You're kind of like, oh, what's happening? But the swimming pool bit I find a bit strange. I
mean, I understood the logic of it.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh well, that's maybe like they're gonna try and lure it into the water and then electrocute it.
Yeah.
I guess is the idea. But yeah, it's unclear as to what's... I kind of like that it's unclear as to what's actually happening there.
Yeah.
And like how that ends is like kind of like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
And I think that makes the very end work even better. Where you're like, okay, it looked like something happened to it, but... And then at the end, you just get that great shot of them walking down the street together.
Yeah.
And the camera following them. And then you look behind them at someone. And it could be just somebody walking down the street. But... And then it's just credits.
Plus the, like... it's almost going against, like, what the normal... movie ending, especially, like, it's almost like it's trying to say this is a happy ending, but like no one looks happy. And they're holding hands, but it's very loveless. It's very like just mechanical almost, or there's just no tenderness really in it. I like that, because that adds to that, as you were saying, you found it very intentional that the creepy white knight guy, at the end was portrayed that way.
Yeah,
I hope it was.
Felt entirely intentional to me.
Yeah,
that he was just like, even the way he just comports himself all the time, and the way he's always looking at her.
Yeah,
in this creepy way, like when he knows she can't see him and stuff.
Yeah,
it just felt to me like that was entirely what was intended and what was going on.
He was getting on like Kevin Bacon.
He was getting on like a young Kevin Bacon would have been really good in that role.
Yeah.
Oh, if only, eh? If only. And it looks like it,
or
it
even
looks
just
like it could
present,
be set in an era that were with young Kevin Bacon, or even just put present day adult Kevin Bacon
playing a teenager,
preying on this like 18-year-old girl. It's like, yep, I believe it. I believe it.
Dear.
Right, so It Follows is definitely the best one of these movies, with Invisible Man second, but still, I think, pretty good.
I mean, I would say I don't think it's a waste of time to watch any of the three of these. No, they all are very different, but
and if you have time, watch the James Whale directed 1933 Invisible Man, because it's still kind of great.
Yeah, I wanted to, I just didn't have the time, but I probably will.
Yeah, I managed to sneak it in there, and it is very good.
Yeah,
you could see how they got Hollow Man from it in a way, with like the character is kind of, he's not a sexual predator creep, but he is a creep, and he is a horrible dick.
Yeah.
And, like, it is effectively creepy as well. Like, I mean, like, the opening scene, and it's very creepy when he just shows up at this bar with all his bandages on and demands a room.
Yeah.
And it's kind of brilliant. I was just like, really? And I gotta say, as I think I said to you before we started recording, actually, that the effects in it are actually kind of really impressive.
That's awesome.
I was kind of looking at it going, I wasn't expecting it to look this good and be this convincing, and there's some great stagecraft going on.
Yeah.
With the way they imply there's an invisible person there a lot of the time, and it doesn't look crappy or stupid.
Were you not tempted to watch Memoirs of an Invisible Man?
I did not watch Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Mainly because it stars Chevy Chase,
and
that
awful.
Man crawls my skin, as he always has. I think the only time he hasn't really is The Three Amigos.
Yeah.
And that's because you had Martin Short and Steve Martin sort of
There's a bit of
diluting.
A buffer there.
They're diluting the Chevy Chaseness of it.
Yeah.
They have a lot more to do in that film than Chevy Chase does. And it's a better film for it. Although I haven't seen The Three Amigos in a long time, so maybe a rewatch is in order. I don't know, to reevaluate the Chevy Chaseness of it.
Maybe just as your skin's about to crawl, like, Steve Martin and Martin Short come on, and you're like,
yeah, they pop up, they pop up and say something very funny, and then I forget about Chevy Chase, and everything's all right with the world for a couple of minutes. Yeah, maybe. So definitely It Follows. Now, John, which of these movies has the best methodology, advice for evading or defeating or doing something about invisible killers?
Well,
like,
It Follows is out.
Yeah.
I don't think they got rid of that thing.
No, and they don't do a great job of revealing it.
No.
I mean, they have a wee bit, like, towards the end where there's a point where White Knight guy throws a sheet over it, but a sheet can be removed easily if one has one on them. So that's not a great solution. In the Invisible Man, there is that bit you pointed out, which is one of the logical flaws in the movie, when she throws the paint on him and he's able to wash it off his magic sci-fi suit
very quickly,
weirdly quickly and easily. I mean, he gets it all off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't know about you, John, but I have gotten paint on things and quickly tried to scrub it off. There's always something left behind.
The amount of jeans I've had to throw out because there's paint. It's tiny droplet of paint got on it. It's like, oh, I can never use these again.
Yeah, you try to scrub it and it just becomes a long smear then.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, that didn't help. So I don't know how he's getting it now, unless he is super science man. So maybe
he used science to clean it.
Maybe no, it wasn't going to be that fucking stuff. Maybe it's like Teflon coated or something like super smooth and like non-stick.
Okay.
That the paint has nothing to adhere to.
I think we're overlooking the best thing, and it's from Hollow Man. And it's something that they can't fucking use properly.
Is the goggles.
Is the fucking goggles.
The goggles they refuse to fucking use.
Yeah.
They have, and I know I got mad about this earlier, but I'm getting mad about it again. They have thermal goggles that give them like predator vision from the movie Predator, and that lets them perfectly see him. Mm-hmm. But even when they know he has been murdering people and is doing things to capture them in the lab and is setting up the lab to murder them, they get the goggles, and they have the goggles, and they hold the goggles. Mm-hmm. They hold them in their hands, and they run around with the goggles in one hand, and then like a tranquilizer gun in the other hand.
Yeah.
And they run to places with the goggles in their hands. And someone's on, telling them, he's in this corridor because we're picking him up from, I don't know what they're picking him up from, his heat signature or movement or I don't know, but they're looking at a wee map and saying he's probably around this corner. And then they run around the corner, stop, and then say, right, now it's time to put on the goggles after I'm in the place where he is already.
Yeah.
And then they put on the goggles, they turn them on, they look around, they don't see him, they turn off the goggles, they take the goggles off. What the... What?
That's science reasons.
I mean, again, I was thinking, maybe the battery life in them is terrible. And if they run them for, maybe there's only, 20 to 25 seconds of total battery life in them. I don't know. I mean,
in all honesty, Hollow Man gives us the most ways we can find him. Yeah. Because it does the one where, he's in the rain, so we can see him. He's underwater, we can see him.
He turns on the sprinklers at one point to see him. Or is that...
as you mentioned, the fire extinguishers.
But Elizabeth Shue sets him on fire at one point, which should be pretty effective.
That would, if it's a war, just flamethrowers seem like the perfect option to deal with invisible people.
It's the arachnophobia method, isn't it? It's a can of WD-40 and a lighter, mate. That's how we deal with this invisible menace. Yep.
It's stay away or you will burn.
Yeah, I think, so all we need to do is crack open the toolbox here and just start spraying, and I think we'll be fine. Fuck these guys. Fire, turns out, now we usually don't go for the quote-unquote violent option, but I feel like the
dicks.
Threat of it is more the thing, you know, and they're dicks.
It's like trying to keep them away. It's just fuck off, or you're going to get burnt. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, I'll just glue a lighter to the front of this can of WD-40 or duct tape it on there, leave it lit, and there we go.
We'll channel our inner Ripley.
Indeed. I'm going to channel my Jeff Daniels. You could be Ripley, I'll be Jeff Daniels at the end of Arachnophobia with his broken leg lying on the floor, just being defeated by a tiny, tiny bug. What a dick. That's me. That's more my scene. All right, well, great. Now that we've defeated that threat effectively, we are on Twitter. We are at 7-Day Apocalypse. That's at numeral 7-Day Apocalypse. You can email us on This Week's Apocalypse. Filmcast at thisweeksapocalypse.com. You wouldn't think I've done this 62 times now or whatever. Filmcast.
The Invisible Man changed the teleprompter.
Bastard. He's in here. Damn it. I wish I had a teleprompter. So it's film. I nearly did it again. Filmcast at thisweeksapocalypse.com. Okay. We also have a YouTube channel. We've been doing adventure game playthroughs of nightmare adventure games from the 90s. We finished the first Discworld. We're probably going to start working on Discworld 2 next.
In a couple of weeks, probably.
In a couple of weeks,
next
at some
week,
point.
Or sometime.
Not immediately. No. I don't know when, relative from when this goes up.
It might be up there and all now.
It might be. Who knows? We're unpredictable. But anyway, you can find us there. And John, just get your flamethrowers ready. Get your WD-40. Or if you have any Axe body spray or Lynx, that's probably way more fucking caustic.
Yeah, that'll probably keep them away without the need for fire.
Yeah, just spray them with Lynx. You know what? We'll be able to see that. All right, we'll just spray them with Lynx, and that'll be grand. Right in the eyes as well. Yeah, this is anti-perspirant as well, so it will dry their eyes up. Take that, Invisible Man. All right, bye.